What's more likely in 2026 in the NFC West? That the Arizona Cardinals find a way to win 2 games in the division, or the Seattle Seahawks lose 2 games in the division? That's not one of the actual questions we're asking today, but that is an example of the game that Rob Guerrero of the Gold Standard Podcast Network and I are going to play on this edition of the weekly collaboration show we like to call the NFC West Mixtape, where we talk about the best division in football every single week. We're going to go back and forth. We've got some cool stuff lined up for each other. It's a game of what's more likely coming up next.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
This is probably the last show for the mixtape before we actually start to talk about football on the field, with training camps on the verge of opening up a week from now. But we had a lot of fun with this one. I think you're going to enjoy this one. And then I want to see some of your examples down in the comments. That'll be fun. Give us some of your what's more likely. But please subscribe to the channel if you're here for the first time. I am a full-time independent content creator. It's the best way to support me. We alternate who hosts and leads the conversation each week. This is my week to do that, but we go back and forth in this one, and we have a good time doing it. So enjoy this week's episode of the NFC West Mixtape. Well, we're going to play a little game for you this week on NFC West Mixtape as we count down to training camp. Hey, when we get back together a week from now, we're going to actually be able to talk about camp. I know for the Seahawks, rookies report on the 17th. So, man, we're almost there. But hey, the mixtape's been here with you every single week, no matter how busy or slow news is. That's Rob Guerrero from the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Dan Viens from Seahawks Forever. Rob, good to see you as always.
Dan, how are you?
I'm good. Forgot what day it was, but hey, we rally, right? Better late than never, they say. It's a recorded episode, so if I hadn't said anything, they wouldn't even know.
I always promise full authenticity on the pod. Not 100% accuracy, but 100% authenticity.
That's right. Yeah. I literally forgot what day it was until Rob reached out to me and asked for the link. So here we are. We made it. The best ability is availability. And I made it. I missed the first quarter. That's all. We're going to play a game here. This is Rob's idea. This sounds like a lot of fun. We're calling it What's More Likely. And we're going to try to give equal time around the division a little bit. We're even going to try to throw some love the Cardinals' way, because a game like this sort of opens the door to some intriguing questions about them. And we'll just kind of alternate, go back and forth, and get some debate and some fun opinions here. I'm going to start us off really easy, just to kind of ease into it and give people an idea of what this game is going to look like. All right.
Okay.
So I ask you, Rob Guerrero, what is more likely? 49ers and Seahawks both drafted running backs this year. Jadarian Price rushes for 1,000 yards for the Seahawks, or Kalen Black, because there is a guy named Christian McCaffrey still on the roster, rushes for 800 yards for the 49ers. What's more likely?
Easy. This is cake for me. Price rushing for 1,000 yards for Seattle. It's not even close. Christian McCaffrey, the running joke among 49ers, content creators, is Kyle Shanahan making his yearly, we got to get Christian McCaffrey less carries this year. He says it every year. And last year, Christian McCaffrey had 450 touches, if you include the playoffs. Mm-hmm. An absurd amount. So Shanahan could have the best of intentions. It's not going to happen. Even if McCaffrey gets hurt, I think they'll split the carries between Jordan James and Kalen Black. So easily it is Price going over 1,000 yards.
God. How far would I have needed to bring that Kalen Black number down for you to had to think a little bit?
Probably like 500, maybe.
Okay. All right. You're up.
All right. Let's see. I got my list here. How about this one? What is more likely? 1,000 yards receiving by Puka Nacua or 1,000 yards receiving by Jackson Smith-Njigba?
I got to go with JSN because it's the off-field stuff. Right? It's that, but also Nakua's been nicked up a little bit. He plays a much more physical form of football. So it's more likely, I suppose, over a full season that he might get dinged up and miss a couple of games. But it's just, we don't know what he's going to look like in training camp. He's kind of been disengaged in the off season. There's the contract issue that he would have loved to have gotten the new deal that JSN did this offseason, but I think in part because of some of the issues that have been well documented. He went to rehab this offseason. He's made some questionable decisions on social media and just how to conduct himself. We really don't know now how motivated the Rams are to sign him long term. I mean, I don't think the T word's been used. I don't think there's any speculation really that they would consider trading him, but he's certainly spent some time in the doghouse this offseason, and they have Devontae Adams, and they still might not be done. There's some veteran receivers available out there, and you never know. The Rams are always going to be aggressive, looking for opportunities and maybe making a trade at the deadline. And so, I think it's a given that JSN health warranted is, tops 1,000 yards, but I think they both will. Let's be honest. But I think of the two, Nakua is kind of on shakier ground.
That's fair. The problem for the Rams is there's not really a ton of wide receiver depth behind him. I mean, yes, you have Devontae Adams, but he's missed time. He's an older player. And then who is it for the Rams? They kind of go with their tight ends at that point, and maybe they could do that again and be fine.
Yeah.
But the wide receiver position is not as stacked as some of the other positions on their roster for sure.
Yeah, if there's any targets taken away from Nakua's direction, I think it would be that tight end group. They've invested so much in it over the last couple of years, even this last year with Max Clare, and then they've spoken so highly about Terrence Ferguson from the year before that maybe they commit a little bit more to those guys in the passing game. But yeah, that's where I'd go on that one.
Okay.
All right, let's throw a little bit of love the Cardinals' way, okay? And I tried to craft this in a certain way. We'll see what happens. I think everything's going to be all hunky-dory with Jacoby Brissett. They'll do something to make him happy, whatever. I think he'll be the starter week 1. But they drafted Carson back in the 3rd round. They've got Gardner Minshew there. I think he's kind of a break glass if there's an emergency sort of quarterback on hand. They've spoken highly about Beck. What's more likely? Jacoby Brissett throws for 4,000 yards, which he's certainly capable of doing if he's the full-time starter there, or Carson Beck throws for 2,000 yards for the Cardinals this year?
Well, I'll say this. If the Cardinals were a smart organization, it would be Carson Beck, because there's no value in Jacoby Brissett throwing for 4,000 yards for you this year. He's not your long-term guy. He's just not. That's why you're in a contract dispute with him right now, because you don't want to pay this guy because you know what he is. Carson Beck should be the guy there that gets the majority of the passing attempts. Are the Cardinals a smart organization? No, they're just not. They have never been. But I still think, even now, that they will do the right thing and let Carson Beck play more games, the majority of the games this year. So I will take the Carson Beck side of this. The Cardinals have some nice pieces there. I really like Michael Wilson, their wide receiver. Trey McBride is obviously a stud. Obviously, they just drafted Jeremiah Love coming out of Notre Dame. So there are some fun pieces on this offense to let whoever the quarterback is potentially have some fun. I'm down on Marvin Harrison Jr. I just am. Like, tell me another wide receiver that's been as mid as he has been that has all of a sudden blown up this late into his career. Generally doesn't happen. But Cardinals, do the right thing. See what you've gotten back, because if you have something there, you potentially could set yourself up for a tremendous pick in this coming draft, which is supposed to be really good. And if you don't have to take a quarterback there, you could potentially get, arguably, based on where the Cardinals are going to end up, maybe the best non-quarterback in that draft class.
Yeah. No, great points. All of them.
As usual. You forgot to add the as usual at the end of that.
It's implied.
All right. Okay. What is more likely, Dan? Sam Darnold leads the NFL in turnovers again, or the Seahawks defense leads the NFL in points per game allowed again? And just
I can't say both, can I?
No. And just in case you need a refresher, the Seahawks gave up 17.2 points per game last year, and Sam Darnold had 20 turnovers.
And the question was, will he not lead the league in turnovers again, right?
What's more likely? He leads the league in turnovers again, or the Seahawks give up the fewest points per game in the league again?
I think that defense has a chance to be even better this year. And I do think Sam Darnold's going to cut down on his turnovers. That defense, there's a couple of sort of rallying cries that I've made throughout the offseason. First of all, the continuity, even though they lost a couple of key players on that defense. Kobe Bryant, of course, went to the Bears, Reek Woolen to the Eagles. 7 players that played 400 snaps are back. It's a ton of continuity. And we have never seen what a Mike Macdonald defense looks like in year 3. He was 2 years as the coordinator in Baltimore. He's been the head coach now in Seattle for 2 years. And in both places, we saw a massive leap from year 1 to year 2. That Baltimore defense in year 2 there was historically good. They led the league in every major category. And then we saw the leap from year 1 to year 2 defensively here in Seattle. And all the key players are back. They got some guys in the draft that they like. What's a year 3 look like? Sounds like he's hinted at some different things in the pass rush approach. There was a moment last year, if you remember, on the short week 16, that thrilling Rams game that went into overtime, where they gave up 550 yards in offense to the Rams. And he said, hey, I put too much on their plate. It's a very complex defensive scheme. And even then he had to pull back a little bit at times with all those guys that he has. Year 3, can he open up the playbook even more? Or there's some things we haven't seen him do yet or that he's wanted to do. Sounds like there might be some things they have planned with Nick Emmanwori to actually use him as an edge rusher more often. They've told him that they see some Micah Parsons in him. So I just think that defense has a chance to be even better this year. And as much as I think that Sam Darnold is going to reduce his turnovers this year, play smarter football, I think that defense still is on the upswing.
Year 9 with Sam Darnold. That's the year he's going to reduce his turnovers.
Hey. Have you seen, I should have put this stat, but there was this research, all kidding aside, there was some research done earlier this week, and I saw this graph where it mapped out where each position group reaches their peak in value. And quarterbacks happens from 29 to 33, 34. Sam's just turning 29 this year, so I do still think this is the first time we've had a chance to see him play in a second year with a good team with all that continuity around him, right? 9 other starters around him that played 700 snaps last year. I think we're going to see that show up in his performance.
Okay. By the way, I agree with everything you said about the Seahawks defense. They're awesome. There's no reason they won't be awesome again, especially with your head coach being the primary driver of that defense. But Sam Darnold, this is what he does. He turns the football over. The man had 11 fumbles last year. He basically has a fumble every other game for his career. He's got, I think, what does he have, 100 games played or 90 games played? No, 100. And he has 57 fumbles. So anytime he wants to stop, feel free. But no disrespect to the Seahawks defense, but I'll take Sam Darnold on that side of it.
You know who else used to turn the ball over a lot when he was younger? Matthew Stafford, which is a great segue into my next question.
Okay.
What is more likely? Matthew Stafford goes back-to-back and wins another MVP award at the age of 37. Does he turn 38 this year? Or Sam Darnold gets an MVP vote?
Interesting. Stafford is 38 right now. Here is the thing. It's really hard to win back-to-back MVPs. Aaron Rodgers did it in 2020 and 2021. It doesn't happen that often just because injury, circumstance, and as I always say, to win an MVP, you need 2 things. You need numbers and you need narrative. You got to have both on your side. Now, you're saying Darnold doesn't have to win the MVP. He just has to get a vote. I don't think he'll get a vote because I think he's, in this specific instance, he is hurt by the Seahawks defense. I think most people look at that team and they say the defense is what drives that team. Darnold, he's played well in moments for sure, but he's not the primary engine that leads to the success of the Seahawks. So I don't think he will get a vote, even if he plays well. I just think, again, the narrative in this case is not on Sam Darnold's side.
Yeah. And they'd have to see that run pass split would have to shift upward under Brian Fleur this year for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thought that was a fun one.
Before Aaron Rodgers, the last guy to win back-to-back MVPs was Peyton Manning, 2008, 2009. So again, it's really, really hard to do.
Okay.
All right. My next question for you, more likely to win their first coach of the year this year, Mike Macdonald or Kyle Shanahan?
Mike Macdonald. I just think that the Seahawks team is positioned. Look, as much as I really, really like the 49ers starting 22, and I think if they can stay completely healthy this year, they're going to be right there. It's going to be a 3-team race, just like it was last year, but I think a more legitimate 3-team race where week 16, 17, we just have no clue how it's going to work out. I don't love their depth. And I think the Seahawks depth is better. I think the Rams depth is a little bit better. I don't really even like the Rams depth, to be honest with you. I've toyed with doing an exercise this offseason, but I'll probably table it of like what it would look like if all the twos went against each other, how this division would shake out. So that would be my concern there. I do think Kyle has this in his favor, though. They go out and have a great year. I think voters want to give him the award. I think if it's close, kind of like in the Grammys, right, or the Oscars, if someone's just been passed over a lot in their career, and then they do sort of a slightly better than mediocre movie late in their career, they kind of hand it to them. I think there's probably some sentiment out there to get him the award. But if Mike Macdonald can put another season together like the one they just had, voters also love the young up and coming guy and the hot name. And I think if they go out and win the division again, especially if they go to the Super Bowl again, I think it's his.
I completely disagree. I think the voters don't want to give it to Kyle Shanahan. They didn't give it to him in 2019, where they came out of nowhere to get to the Super Bowl. They didn't give it to him in 2022 when he lost 2 quarterbacks and took the last pick in the draft as a rookie and went into the playoffs on a 10-game win streak. They didn't give it to him that year, and they didn't give it to him last year when everybody and their mother got hurt, and he still got to the playoffs. They don't want to give it to Kyle.
How much of that do you think has to do with like how surly he's been with the media? Because I feel like he's softened in that area, particularly last year, at least that's from my viewpoint.
I don't think his media appearances help him. I'll say that. I do think, I was stunned, number one, that he agreed to sit at the desk before the Super Bowl this year. And number two, I was stunned he did such a good job.
He was great. Yeah.
I never would have guessed he would have done that. So maybe he is starting to soften a little bit, but I just think that they're never going to give it to him, which is crazy to me. I don't know how he hasn't won it already, but I think Mike Macdonald is in good position this year to get it. You could have argued he should have got it last year, quite frankly. And Kyle, they both had a good argument. Yeah. But I don't think Kyle's ever going to win it, which is crazy because there's not a person in the league that would say he's a bad head coach.
No, we're seeing all these rankings come out now of the best head coaches in the league. He's always top 3 or 4. So, yeah, the respect is certainly there league-wide. All right, I've got one for you. There's a couple of very, very good young defensive tackles in this division that I think are on the verge of superstardom. We've talked about them quite a bit on the show. In fact, I think last week I talked about how much I like Kobe Turner in our draft and took him from the Rams, right? And he's on the verge of getting a big contract, certainly next offseason, if not sooner. And then the Seahawks have Byron Murphy. Who's likely to make their first all-pro team in 2026? The Rams, Kobe Turner, or the Seahawks, Byron Murphy?
Well, I'm going to go Kobe Turner, mostly because of an article that just came out on ESPN.com.
Yeah.
Ranking, they talked to executives, a bunch of people around the league to rank the top 10 at every position in the NFL. It's great. I love when they do this. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. And they've been doing every position all week this week. And today was defensive tackles. And Byron Murphy's not even on the list.
He was one of the 3 honorable mentions.
I mean,
he was in the honorable mention list.
So was Osel Diggy a big deal. I mean, I was stunned that he wasn't somewhere in the top 10, which to me just speaks to how underappreciated he is as a player and what he does. So I'm going to go Turner just because I feel like people are not noticing, I guess, as much how important Murphy is to that Seahawks defense.
I think another year like he had last year, 7.5 sacks, 8 sacks, and they will. I think they're both, again, two of the real good young defensive tackle stars in this league. You did see who number 1 on that list was, did you not?
It was Dexter Lawrence, I believe. Or not Dexter Lawrence.
Leonard Williams.
Yeah, sorry. I knew it was a Seahawk. I just got the name.
I was a little surprised by that. We've always felt like, he was a little bit overlooked here, but it was cool to see just because, I talked a lot at the end of the season about how I thought it was the best season of his career. And to see that recognized, moved up from 6, I think, a year ago. So that was kind of cool.
I will say, I remember when Leonard Williams was coming into the NFL, and he was supposed to be like the man. Everybody talked about how good of a prospect Leonard Williams was, and he goes to the Jets, and he was okay, but he didn't blow everybody away right off the bat. And it just took a couple years for him to kind of mature. And now, I mean, he's in a perfect spot with the scheme and everything. I was not shocked to see him at number one.
I'm sure his agent took note of that article as he is entering into the last year of his deal. And so
oh yeah.
Throw that on the pile. Might have just made himself an extra $1 million. All right, give me one back and then we'll take a quick break and then we'll have a few more.
Okay, how about this? More likely to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, the NFC West, or everyone else in the National Football Conference?
Oh, you're giving me the field. I mean, the NFC North is pretty legit. That's a division that needs to be taken seriously. And it's interesting to me that, when we're in the middle of list and ranking season, right? And all these head coaching ranks and roster ranks. I was a little surprised to see how high people have the Lions total roster in the league. I think they've got some pretty significant weaknesses in spots, but as an overall roster, really, it's been elevated in these lists. Dan Campbell showed up on PFF's list of top 10 head coaches in the league. I was slightly surprised by that. And then, Green Bay Packers, their annual tradition of being propped up as one of the best young rosters in the league. They haven't exactly, I don't know. Don't get me started on Jordan Love. I've never seen him elevate that roster, and yet he keeps showing up in top 10 lists. So the NFC North, we've got it's the NFC West, and in part not just because I think they're the three best teams in the conference. I really believe that, even more so than a year ago. I think they might have even distanced themselves a little bit from the field, but iron sharpens iron. Right. And they playing that round robin tournament that they play throughout the season, whoever comes out of that is going to be so ready and battle tested for whatever happens in the playoffs. And they'll probably end up all playing each other again, like they did last year. I just think that I just think that's where it's at. And it's the brain power. It's the coaching. It's the three guys that we've talked about kind of ad nauseum. I still have to go with the NFC West. Yeah, that was a great question. I like that one.
Those type of questions, I always take the field just from the raw numbers, but it is really tempting. And honestly, I agree with what you said. I think of the teams in the NFC. I think the Cowboys will be better this year because I don't think their defense can be as horrific as it was last year. But who definitively got better? I don't think the Eagles got better. They traded away AJ Brown. I know they drafted Mekhi Lemon, but he's an unknown. I don't know. Plus, I still don't have confidence in Jalen Hurts. I still think there's, he and the team there are sort of at odds a little bit. Are the Bears better than they were last year? I don't know. They got a lot of turnovers last year on defense. That's huge.
They're really banking on year two of Ben Johnson and some continuity there. I thought they were going to be a little splashier in their approach to the offseason.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that they weren't.
I agree with you. I think it's the three teams in the NFC West that's the best three in the conference.
Well, the best team in the American League West right now is the Seattle Mariners. You might not know it from the last couple of days, but they're on the road. They don't win on the road. They're not good on the road, but they're still in first place in the AL West. The reason I mentioned that on a football show is I just wanted to give you an example of why Prize Picks is the number one option and go-to in the country for daily fantasy sports. This is an example of what a lineup looks like. This is a little lineup that I threw together for tonight's game against the Marlins. They're trying to salvage one game out of that 3-game series. And you simply choose a game, you scroll down through the players, and you go through the statistical categories, pick whichever one you like or you feel most confident in, and you pick more or less. I've got Bryce Miller going tonight. I've got him at more than 6.5 strikeouts. To me, that was an easy one. That was kind of a gimme. He has been on a roll. I think he had a good case for the All-Star game, even though he hasn't played a complete season. We'll see if he gets into the Cy Young conversation if he keeps doing what he's doing. And I feel like Cal Raleigh's on the verge of a breakout, so I got him at over or more than 1.5 total bases, and you can kind of see some of the other selections there. But if you want to try this out, just download the app today, and they are a sponsor of both of our channels here, both Rob and I. It's the same promo code for both of us. So you download the app, you sign up using the promo code HMA, and you just try out the lineup feature by playing a $5 lineup of your own. They're instantly going to reward you with $50 in instant bonus lineups. So download the PrizePicks app today, sign up using promo code HMA, play a $5 lineup, get yourself $50 in free instant lineups from them as a reward. You can follow us on their social feed as well. You can ridicule our lineups or copy them if you think they're good. I'm Seahawks Forever, all one word. You are?
At Stats on Fire.
At Stats on Fire. Check and see what the availability is in your state. It's available in a ton of states. Always play responsibly. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so let's do snake style. We'll have you lead off the second half as we continue with our game. What's more likely?
All right, I'm trying to include the Cardinals, like you said. What's more likely? The Rams win the Super Bowl at SoFi Field, or the Cardinals win a game in the division?
I think the Rams win the Super Bowl at SoFi Field. I really do. We've talked about that Cardinals schedule, and like it is tough. It is tough. And I just, I don't think they did enough in the offseason to really get better. We've talked about like lack of blue chip players. They just didn't address the defense in a way that I thought was substantial enough. And now we don't even know who the quarterback is. So whereas the Rams are built for now, they had a loud offseason. They went and addressed their biggest weakness by trading for the best cornerback available through any means this offseason, signed another good one in Jalen Watson in free agency, and then, oh, by the way, went and traded for the best player in the NFL in Myles Garrett at a position that people kind of thought they were pretty good at to begin with. So I think, if they stay healthy, Matthew Stafford plays 17 games, they know they're all in on this thing. We saw that by the approach to the draft and then the motivation of knowing you can play in your home stadium again. That worked out pretty well for them last time. I don't know what to make of this Cardinals team, but I think that's probably more likely that the Rams would play in the Super Bowl in their own home stadium.
Not play. They got to win it.
Win it. Yeah. Well, if they play in it, they're winning it. Whoever comes, I think it's going to be similar to last year. Like the AFC again is just doesn't stand up to the NFC in my opinion. And I think whoever comes out of that NFC West is probably going to be the favorite in the Super Bowl.
The only thing I can think of is that week 18, the Cardinals play the 49ers. And what if there's a situation where the Niners, they can't improve their seed or whatever, and they rest people, and then the Cardinals steal a win in a meaningless game. And then, watch, they steal a win in a meaningless game that costs them, the number one pick, and then they lose out on a good player. That would be, very, very Cardinals if it happened. Yeah. But it just goes to show the disparity between the teams in the division. Sorry, Cardinals fans.
I got a couple fun ones I want to get to here, but there's one I just thought of. So I'm intrigued by your assertion earlier that Kyle Shanahan will never win NFL head coach of the year. So let me give you this one. What's more likely? Kyle Shanahan does win the NFL Coach of the Year award this year, or Mike LaFleur is one and done in Arizona?
Ooh, that I hate when coaches are one and done. I think it's completely unfair to whoever you hire. To me, you have to be an Urban Meyer level disaster to get one and done. It takes time. You got to get your roster in there. You got to find your players, and it's very.
Cardinals are the kings of one and done, though. They've done it with their coaches. They've done it with a quarterback.
True. The 49ers did it 2 years in a row with Jim Tomsula and then Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
I will say it is more likely that Kyle Shanahan wins Coach of the Year.
Okay.
Just because I know the Cardinals are bad, but they're also cheap. And if you fire LaFleur, you've got to pay him and pay another coach. So I will bet on the cheapness of the Cardinals, and I will say that LaFleur will be there for at least 2 seasons. So I have to, by a process of elimination, take the other side. I'll take the Kyle Shanahan.
All right. See, I forced you to have to say that.
Right. Good for you. All right. It's your turn again, right? Because we're doing snake or no?
No. I just meant that coming out of the break, I thought I'd let you lead. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Which ones haven't I done yet? What is more likely? The Rams sweep the Seahawks this year, or the 49ers split against the Seahawks this year?
I'd have to say the 49ers split, because, obviously we saw the last 2 games last year. It looked like Mike McDonald figured that offense out. There were pretty convincing victories. Kyle Shanahan's going to do, and not even going to do, has been doing, I'm sure, over the last 8 months, everything he can. He's probably as good as anyone in the league at kind of reassessing and tweaking and reinventing his offense a little bit. He's watched thousands of hours of tape on that Mike McDonald defense, I'm sure, tried to come up with some tweaks for his offense and different ways to approach it. And they're going to be healthier this year. We know that. Meanwhile, I just don't see the Rams sweeping the Seahawks. I think they've kind of taken the approach this offseason. I know I was told leading up to the draft that they very specifically were targeting players that they thought would work really well in their scheme to try to slow down that Rams offense and make them more, just more. They really want to. It's their mission. If Mike McDonald can accomplish anything this year, it's finding a way to slow down that offense when they're at their best and when Stafford's healthy and playing. And I have a lot of confidence in that dude's brain, and I think he'll find a way to slow them down. And so I do think it's more likely the 49ers will find a way to win one of those games as opposed to the Rams sweeping the Seahawks this year.
Which, by the way, the 49ers split with the Seahawks in the regular season last year, so it's not totally crazy. Right. So I do agree that the playoff game was a beatdown, but I do also think that a lot of the things in that playoff game might not necessarily happen in a rematch. So we'll see. But okay, I'm down with you on that one. Those Rams Seahawks games are going to be are both of those in prime time? Did they at least give us that?
Yeah, well, week 18 we don't know because they leave the whole weekend up for debate. They don't set those times.
It will be.
But week 16 is Christmas night. So yeah, prime time. It's the only game that night. So
man, that is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a Friday night, Christmas night. Yeah, I'll be there. Making the trip, weather permitting. Okay, I'm going to give you one that I conjured up because, this is a complete hypothetical, but it involves a couple of troubled, veteran, formerly incredibly productive wide receivers. So there's been a lot of speculation this offseason that, the Rams are out pecking around and hunting wide receivers. They were involved in the A.J. Brown talks. And at one point there was some discussion that maybe they trade Devontae Adams as part of that and buy some contractual control and a little bit of youth by swapping Adams out for Brown. There was some consideration giving or some murmurs that maybe they would consider adding Brown to that mix. The Stephon Diggs connection is one that some people have tried to make. Now, Diggs finds himself, as he seems to every offseason, in some hot water lately and some legal issues and some courtroom wrangling. And so we'll see where he is. But, now 2 years removed off his last injury, and he was very productive last year for the Patriots, would probably be willing to play in a very favorable contract to go chase a potential Super Bowl and play in an offense like the Rams can present. What's more likely? The Rams signed Stephon Diggs this year, or Brandon Ayuk shows up, signs his paperwork, and reports and forces the 49ers to have to make a move.
You could have made the first side of this question. Roger Goodell forces his way on a roster and makes himself the quarterback. And I would have picked that over anything to do with Brandon Ayuk. You could have picked me signing with the 49ers. There is a better chance of Rob Guerrera suiting up to play offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers than there is for Brandon Ayuk right now to show up and do what he needs to do to continue his football career. It's comical at this point. He literally said he's not going to apply for reinstatement.
It's insane. And you were at the forefront of this. You're the one that educated me on this. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask this, because it'll answer some questions that I know fans have out there. Unless or until he does that, nothing can happen, correct?
The 49ers could always release him if they wanted to, but there's a financial incentive for them.
It accelerates all the dead money, right?
Exactly. He's on the reserve left team list. He's not on the active roster. It's better for their money situation, which is why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. The second he applies for reinstatement, they're cutting him. Like they're done with him, but they don't have to do that right now. And so they're just sitting there And it is comical that he has literally said he's not going to do that. Now he's going back and forth with Jaden Daniels on social media, the quarterback of the only team that seems like they're interested in him. I think there's a very, very, very good possibility he is just done.
I thought the knee was an issue, but I think the bigger concern probably for any team considering Brandon Ayuk, if he ever does become available, is probably what's happening above the neck. That is just it's a really unfortunate. It is comical, but it's also pretty sad.
Yeah, because he's a really good wide receiver and he's still young. And I know the knee was banged up, but he was on the field running routes before the preseason game against the Raiders last year. So, I'm sure it is, and he looked fine. So I'm sure his knee is healthy enough to at least give it a go. It's not like, oh, there's no possible way I could play football again. And he just doesn't seem like he wants to actually go and do that.
Yeah. All right. What do you got for me?
Let's see. Next one. I'll make this the last one.
Okay.
I'm trying to be nice. More likely to win Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett or anybody else?
Man, I mean, I could see Nick Bosa being in the conversation with the healthy year. There's a number of guys on that Seahawks defense. Obviously, if they have another great year, I could see Nick Emmanwori being a popular choice near the end of the year. But that's, he's coming off the greatest season any pass rusher's ever had. As we've mentioned a lot on this show, he's going to be playing in a lot more advantageous situations this year where they're playing from ahead, and he's going to be able to pin his ears back and go after teams that are throwing the ball late. All the attention with the trade, and now he's in Los Angeles. He's under the spotlight. I think it's probably more likely that he wins Defensive Player of the Year.
There is no better defensive player in a better situation than Myles Garrett this year. He's going to get 1,000 opportunities to rush the passer. He's got other really good people in that defensive front with him for the Rams. I just don't know how he doesn't win it, which is rare because other than Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt, who each won it back-to-back, I don't think there's ever been those are the only two guys I think that have ever won back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards, as I'm just kind of quickly. Oh, Lawrence Taylor did it in 81, 82. Apologies, LT. But other than that, it is super hard to do. But he's just, how does he not get 17, 18 sacks? The only thing that stops him is injury. That's it.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, here's one. What's more likely? This will be the last one. What's more likely? I don't have this written the way that it is in my brain, so I'll try to put this together. What's more likely? That the Rams finish as the NFL's number one scoring defense. I think they feel like they're in position to do that with all the additions they've made. Or that the Seahawks finish with a top 5 offense in the NFL this year.
That is a very good question. Because I think if you were to ask somebody to list the top offenses in the league last year, I don't think that many people would say the Seahawks right off the top of their head. But the numbers are the numbers, and the Seahawks scored a little over 28 points a game last year. That was third best in the NFL. So they are right there. I don't know. The Rams have every reason to think their defense is going to be phenomenal. But will they be the best? It's hard to imagine they're best. It might come down to the score of those two Rams-Seahawks games. Honestly, it might, for both sides of it. It might literally come down to how much they give up in those games. Say what you want about that Seahawks defense, and they were unbelievable, but the Rams cooked them. It was unbelievable. I was watching Matt, and it was like, how is freaking Matthew Stafford doing this? He's carving them. He would go through them at times. They would go down the field. It was like 3-4 plays. It was like, what the hell is going on? But I do agree with you. I think Mike McDonald will have a better plan for them. I will say it is more likely that the Rams defense leads in points allowed than it is that the Seahawks offense leads in points scored. There are a lot of good offenses in the league. I think a couple of them will probably have bounce back years. So I'll go with the Rams defense. That might be my favorite question of all the ones you asked.
Yes, that's a way to finish, right?
There you go.
Finish strong. You can't win the game in the first quarter. You can win it in the fourth quarter, right? Pete Carroll. Yeah. He was always wrong about that, but
I loved that post-game speech when he did that. I thought that was awesome. Can you win it in the first quarter? No. And then everybody explodes at the end. That was fun.
It was a great moment. Incorrect, inaccurate, but a great moment it was seizing the moment. Yeah, he read the room correctly and he did what he should have done as head coach. That's Rob Guerrero of the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Dan Viens of the Seahawks Forever Network, both on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcast. Be sure to subscribe, give us a review or a rating as well. It really helps us out and gets us out in front of more people. And we do this spinoff show, this collaboration every single week, no matter what, throughout the season. Rob, good to see you. Next week, we'll be talking about actual training camp about to happen. Can't wait for that. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Dan.
Meanwhile, I am continuing with my countdown of the top 20 most important Seahawk players for 2026. I'm halfway through. If you want to check out 20 through 11, I'll link all of those episodes down below in the description so you can get caught up on that. And then over the weekend, I do the next 2 episodes. But then we're going to wrap up next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific time in a live show unveiling the final 6. And then we can show you the whole list so we can all debate and discuss it together. Also tomorrow, I will be reacting to, I haven't had a chance to catch up to this yet. I know it just wrapped up a couple hours ago, but Mike Salk and Brock Heward of Seattle Sports 710, we're going to have Bucky Brooks on the show to try and defend his position, why he's predicting the Seahawks to go 7-10 this year. Are you kidding me? Can't wait to watch that and react to that. Look for that show tomorrow as well. Always follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. All the other ways you can help support me are listed and linked down below in the description. Forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks for watching, you guys.